The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash, with a silver hat about his head, and a bristling black mustache. He growls as he storms the country, a villain big and bold. And the trees all shake and quiver and quake as he robs them of their gold. The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
For us to come home in front of our family, fans, Raider Nation, the Black Hole.
Raiders! Goddamn right.
Welcome to the Just Raiders Baby podcast with your host, Jay Raider.
What is up, Raider Nation? This is the Just Raiders Baby podcast. I'm your host. I am Jay Raider. This is episode 12. And on today's show, we'll be talking Shedeur Sanders sending out cryptic messages again. We'll discuss Raiders versus Dolphins. We'll discuss the draft order. And I will talk about my third QB nomination for this upcoming draft. And then also we'll look ahead towards Broncos versus Raiders. So stay tuned. Before we get on with the show, as always, remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. Keep supporting the show. Make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe. Turn on your alerts. I do also post shorts at least 2 or 3 times a week. So make sure you have your notifications on for those. They're fucking hilarious. If you've never seen them before, go on my channel, check those out, and enjoy. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button down below. We are currently at 32 subscribers, so let's go ahead and get that up to 50. Obviously, once we get up to about 500, I'll go ahead and start doing giveaways. So let's go ahead and get there. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. All right, let's go ahead and get the show on the road, guys. So for my first segment, we're talking Shedeur Sanders. Again, Shedeur Sanders being in the news this week, sending out thank you, God. Right after the Raiders game, it's pretty coincidental that he's doing that.
Down low.
I know there's some people saying that, it's just because he's religious, but I think it's also because he's trying to stay relevant. He's trying to create a market for himself, especially in this upcoming draft. Him being talked about by the Raiders, and obviously with the Raiders, good news or bad news, drama or no drama, we're always relevant, no matter what. We're America's team that you love to hate, right? So being part of that noise gets you relevant to other teams as well. If we're looking at them, other people are looking at them as well. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on this, but for Shedeur sending out, thank you God, right after every Raider loss is highly coincidental. And obviously the possibility of him coming up in the draft, and then us being currently fifth is really catching a lot of buzz around the league and around Raider Nation. So it makes sense for him to go ahead and post certain things to go ahead and get us fans involved uh, with him in this upcoming draft. All right, so that leads into my next segment, the draft order. So let's go ahead and take a look at the current draft order right now. And that is us. So we are currently in the fifth spot in the draft order. Currently, right now, we are behind Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, and the New York Giants. So I took a peek ahead at everybody's schedule, and Jacksonville has the more easier schedule, and so you look for them to go ahead and win a few games, so they probably will not stay at number one. Tennessee has a little bit harder schedule, so they probably will not get that many more wins, and so don't see them fall too far below. They probably will stay either at 2 or 3, maybe 4. Cleveland also has a harder schedule, and they'll probably stay around the same spot as well. And then you have the New York Giants, and they do have a pretty hard schedule coming up. They actually have the Bucks coming up on Sunday. After that, it's the Cowboys the following week. They have the Saints on the 8th, then the Ravens, then the Falcons, then the Colts. Looking at that schedule, honestly, maybe they win 2 games. They probably could go ahead and beat the Saints and maybe the Cowboys, because Cowboys fucking suck, right? Maybe they can steal one from the Falcons, so that puts you at 3 games. So that puts them at about 5-12 ending the season. So they probably will stay either at 4, or they probably will go up to 2 or 3. So the Giants are probably going to be the ones going up in that draft order. So I would kind of monitor and stay close to what the Giants are doing. And obviously, they do need a quarterback. They just benched Daniel Jones a week or 2 ago, and they just named Tommy DeVito, Tommy fucking Cutlets as their starting quarterback. They chose not to go with Drew Lock, so I think they're on tank watch too. So yeah, looks like Giants are the ones who are going to be trying to make a move, and since they do need a quarterback, they are probably going to try to go after Shedeur or Cam, and most likely, if Giants get up to that number 1, number 2 spot, they will try to go ahead and draft Shedeur, and Coach Prime does want Shedeur to go to a big market, and what big market than the New York Giants, right? So let's go ahead and keep an eye on that. And I'll keep you abreast of everything that comes as far as on the draft order. We still have 7 games to go ourselves in this next season. Obviously, we have the Broncos coming up this week, then the Chiefs, then our the rest of the season is kind of a mixture of everything. We have the Bucks, we have the Falcons, Then right before Christmas, we do have the Jags, and we're probably going to steal that game. That's up for grabs. Then we have the Saints, and then we end things with the Chargers January 5th. So, looking at this rest of the schedule, we're probably going to win maybe about two or three more games, if that. So, we might end the season at 4-13, 5-12 ourselves, and that may put us at either one, two, or three. It all depends. Everything is from now on to the end of the season is a constant monitoring and watch of the placement of the draft order. So, um, this next coming week, don't get too startled if we don't move up in the draft order. We still got a few more games to go. Let's say we do win on Sunday versus the Broncos, and we say at 5 or 6. Remember, we got the Chiefs, then we got the Bucks right after that, and those two games don't look highly likely that we'll go ahead and win based on our current playing style. The Falcons, that's probably not going to be a win as well. They're doing fairly well in their season, so I don't see us also pulling off an upset on that one. I mean, obviously anything's possible. They're currently sitting at 6-5, and then we have Jacksonville, and then that's a game that we'll probably go ahead and be able to steal. And then the Saints game as well. That might be another one, but having those two teams, the Saints and the Jaguars, playing pretty much the same, those two games are going to be up for grabs. We can either lose or win. It just depends what type of offense we put out by then. If we're able to go ahead and fix things offensively and get certain things functioning. Obviously, there's multiple things going on with that. It's just not us trying to tank and get up in the draft order. There's other people, you know, playing for pride and also playing for jobs next season. So there's multiple factors at play, not just concentrating on moving up on the draft, right? And AP, we being one of those people that are playing for the jobs next season, though there's different things being said currently, and we'll go over that later on in the show. But that is currently what the rest of the season looks like. And again, I will go ahead and keep you guys updated as the weeks go by and as our draft order changes. I did do a mock draft on Tuesday, and I did go ahead and put that out on Instagram. So, and I'll show you guys this if you guys want to go ahead and check it out. The first scenario, we actually do not trade up in the draft. We go ahead and draft at number 5, and we land Cam Ward. Right. So that is a scenario that plays out on this mock draft that I did. And then the second one that you guys are looking at, this is where we trade up to get to number 2. So I tried to get up to number 1. I had to give up too much to be able to get to that number 1 spot. Actually, I didn't even try any further, but I already bet a lot. Looks like at that scenario, Jacksonville didn't want to give up the number 1 spot. But I did go after number 2 with Tennessee in the current order, and what they accepted was that we give up our first and second rounders this year and next year, and they're willing to give up their number 2 pick and go to number 5 and take our second round on the draft and then the first and second for the following year. With that, we were able to go ahead and draft Shedeur Sanders, as you saw there. And I believe Cam goes in the 5th pick. So those are scenarios. Again, this is just a mock draft. It doesn't mean anything. A lot of shit could happen from now to then. We can land in the number 1 spot. We could be on number 2 already. We could be on number 3. And we might not need to trade up to that point. Obviously, being at number 1 or 2 gives us almost a lock to go ahead and get either Shedeur or Cam, depending who's going to be ahead of us. Like I've said before, it just depends what the team ahead of us is going to go ahead and project it to draft based on their current needs. So they might not need a quarterback. They might need a wide receiver. They might need a running back. They might need a lineman. They might need a defensive edge or whatever it is that that team is looking for. That's what they're going to draft as the number 1 overall pick. With that being said, there is projections that Travis Hunter probably goes number 1 overall pick. So it might not be Shedeur. And I think that's a good scenario that Travis goes number 1, though we do need a wide receiver. What we actually need, first and foremost, is a quarterback, a franchise quarterback for our future. We'll see what happens with that. There's different projections. Some projections have Travis Hunter going in the 5th pick. Some have him going earlier, number 1, number 2. So it just depends what the team in the top 5 and what their needs are. That's kind of how it's going to go. Like example for the Raiders, if we're number 1, we're not going to pick Travis Hunter. We're going to pick Shedeur, right? Because that's what we need. And Shedeur is a highly sought player.
He's pro ready. End of story.
If push comes to shove, and if we had the opportunity and we're at also number 5, right? So we're at 1 and 5, and we have the ability to draft Travis Hunter, we're going to go for Travis Hunter, right? So that's all I'm trying to put out there is that it's just based on the needs of the team. That's kind of how the draft order is going to go. So I think where we end up, we might end up 2 or 3, depending how we finish out this season, right? And there's going to be close games, but based on our current schedule for the end of the year, it looks like that we might get about 2, maybe 3 more wins. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're going to be looking at every game closely. Even though some of us already checked out for the season, and that's totally fine. I don't blame you at all. Normally I'll be in the same boat. Like, you know what? I'll go ahead and catch the highlights. I won't really try to spend too much time watching the games. Obviously this year is different for many reasons. First and foremost, that I'm doing a show now, right? But also too is that we're highly invested in this draft again for the 2nd year in a row. So we got to see kind of where we're going to land at. And so every game is still important, just for the different reasons now. So, yeah. But that leads me to my next segment, which we're still on the topic of the NFL draft, is my 3rd candidate for quarterback. So this is the thing, right? We did this last year. We were so invested in Jaden Daniels. Raider Nation thought we're going to get Jaden Daniels, and that's it. He's going to be the savior and the cure to all of our problems. And we didn't trade up to get to number 1 or 2 or 3, right? So Jaden Daniels got picked by the Commanders, and we all know what's going on currently, and they're balling out, right? So what do we do if worst case scenario happens and Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward get drafted and they stick with their teams, and we're kind of left with our pants on, right? Wondering what the fuck are we going to do now? So I did talk about on the show last week with Raider Rebel. Shout out to Raider Rebel. But he did put out a good prospect, which is Jackson Dart. And I started looking into Jackson Dart. Thank you, brother, for that tip. And you did open my eyes. And I looked into this guy, and he has good numbers. He has 3,400 yards. Currently, he has 22 touchdowns for this year, only has 4 interceptions. He currently has a QBR rating of 86.2, and it's only third to Mr. Cam Ward, right? Shedeur, coincidentally, has a 76.5 QBR. So he has a higher rating than Shedeur. Now, this is the thing. Jackson Dart plays in a tougher division than Shedeur Sanders. So Jackson Dart plays for the SEC conference, and it is a harder division. They have more competitive teams in that division than the Big 12. So this is the thing. If you compare the two, Shedeur has a more easier schedule in his conference than Jackson Dart, right? Jackson Dart of Ole Miss. So looking at this, and then also I looked at some footage on Jackson Dart. He does use the RPO type offense, and that kid can run. He's a big dude. He's 6'2", 225, so he's not a short guy. So he's able to go ahead and look over some of the linemen and be able to go ahead and put it down the field. He is the number 3 quarterback choice that I'm putting out there, and I'm trying to go ahead and give Raider Nation other options besides Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. He's had issues, with throwing it down the field. I don't know if it's just his throwing style or just the receivers that he currently has or the type of scheme that they're running, but he doesn't take big shots down the field. So those are kind of one of the things. Obviously, sacks here and there are also part of the issue. But I mean, we could say the same thing about Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, but he is a third option. He's another quarterback to think about. Obviously, there's another quarterback out there too that I like as well, and that's that kid from Indiana, Rourke, and he has a pretty good quarterback rating as well. And that's another person we can go ahead and consider. So, if the worst happens in this next draft, and we cannot get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, there needs to be another option.
Interesting, man. That's fucking interesting.
And I hope that Tom Telesco is considering that in preparing for this next draft, because obviously there's a lot of things at stake. And it's been already put out there by Mark Davis and other people in the organization that they will go after quarterback. So that is going to be the prime focus, the central focal point for the Raiders in this next coming draft. So if they're not able to get Cam or Shedeur, there is a third or fourth option that they can go ahead and go out and get in that draft. If we're not able to move up from the 4th or 5th position into number 2 or number 1, we're still able to get an elite style quarterback, and that could be potentially our franchise quarterback of the future. If we're still number 3 or 4, we can get up to number 2 or 1. That'll be a little bit of a tall order, but it is still possible. Like at this mock draft the other day, you can get to number 2 or 1. It just depends what you're willing to give up to be able to get into that position, right? So we'll see what happens, but I did want to go ahead and put out there another option for the Raiders and for Raider Nation to also think about, not just be so fixated on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, though Shedeur keeps doing his thing to keep baiting the Raider Nation to stay focused on him. And trust me, I'm one of them too. And it's hard to ignore, but there's also other things that we have to go ahead and consider in order for us to be able to go ahead and draft a good quarterback in this next NFL draft. So that goes into my following segment, the rumor mill.
I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading. Were rumors true or false are often revealing.
All right. So, rumor mill, AP being in the hot seat. That is being talked about again. I don't know if he's in the hot seat quite yet, but he's getting close. Obviously, we lost to Miami this past Sunday, and there wasn't too much improvement. But I don't think AP is in the hot seat yet. There's still more games to be played. Like I said before, if AP gets to 5-12, 6-11, 7-10, maybe obviously 8-9, he's keeping his job. Anything below that, that is 50-50 for him to be potentially fired. If he doesn't win any more games the rest of the season, it's going to be really hard for AP to justify his position going into the next season and try to produce a winning record with a rookie elite quarterback from the draft. We'll see what happens, but that is my take on it. I believe AP will stay if he's able to get a 5-12 or greater record this season. Anything below that, he could be in danger of losing his job. So obviously we'll watch. But staying on that note, the other side of that rumor is that Mike Grable is the leading candidate, the front runner, to replace AP if AP gets the boot at the end of the season. Mike Grable is a pretty good coach. I'm not gonna lie about that. He did good things in Tennessee. Fortunately, that didn't work out, but for him to come with the Raiders, it's a possibility if they do decide to go ahead and part ways with AP. Obviously, he has ties with Tom Brady, right? And he has a proven record as well. So he's an experienced coach, but again, I don't see that happening. Tom Brady does like AP, Mark Davis does like AP, and then for them to automatically just part ways with him and not give him another season for him to really rebuild and put a really solid team together with the quarterback he needs and on a coordinator to go along with that and create more depth offensively and defensively, and not letting AP stay on from this season is somewhat short-sighted. Obviously, football is a results-oriented sport, and especially us Raider fans, we want instant gratification. I am definitely one of those people. I want to win now. I don't want to win 4 years from now. So it makes sense for us to want to go ahead and have change. So a few things with that is that we don't let our coaches have time to develop, right? We don't give them time to actually put a great football team together or a solid football team together. We're always ready to go ahead and fire a coach after 1 or 2 seasons tops. And if you see, for example, the Jets, who just recently fired Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh was with the Jets for at least 3 years. There's been other coaches that have been longer with their teams before they've gotten fired. For the Raiders, we've had at least like 10 coaches in the last 20 years. Since the 2000s, we've had about 10 to 12 coaches in that time frame. I'm going to go ahead and actually put that up so I could show you guys how many coaches we've had up. If you guys can see here, we have, and I'm counting since 2000, we've had 14 coaches in the last 24 years. 14 coaches for the last 24 years. That is a fucking insane number. And that's what we do. We change coaches more than we change pair of shoes. It's fucking crazy, right? So I'm gonna name you guys all the coaches we've had since 2000. Obviously, we had Gruden from 98 to 2001. We had Bill Callahan for a year. Then we had Norv Turner, which he's back now as an assistant offensive coordinator. We had him for a year. Art Shell, barely a year as well. I think he had like half a season or something like that. Lane Kifflin of a year as well. Tom Cable, we had him for about almost 2 years. Hugh Jackson was only in there for one season. Dennis Allen was for 2 seasons. Tony Sperano, 1 season. Jack Del Rio for 2 seasons. We brought back Gruden, and Gruden was he's probably was the longer of the coaches. Well, if you add both instances together, um, the last part before he got fired, he was with us for almost 3 years. Rich Bisaccia took over for half of that season. Then we had McDummy for almost 2 seasons, and now we have AP going into his first full year of season. Now we're talking about him getting fired from the Raiders, another coach that goes. So the way we've been going through coaches the last 2 decades, it doesn't really look attractive for anybody to come in and coach for us. Same thing goes for coordinators. Biggest message here is to try to go ahead and create some stability. Obviously, this is AP's first full season as a head coach. He's still trying to learn the position itself. Yes, there's a lot of things that can be said about him. He's indecisive. He's not a good play caller. And obviously, he doesn't even call offensive plays. Possibly lost the locker room. And there's a bunch of things that are circulating out there. But I don't think that, for one, currently have a lot of injuries. We just let go of the offensive coordinator. Offense is having, again, another year where they're struggling and trying to find their identity. So there's things that happen. Obviously, also having a new GM come in and working with that person. You had a different GM last year. You had Ziegler now, and then you worked with Champ Kelly primarily, and that seemed to work. But then Mark Davis decided we're not going to have two rookies front office, so they brought in Tom Telesco. So Tom is now working with AP, and that might not be a cohesive unit. They're probably still getting used to each other and the way they do things together. So there's factors that go into this. So obviously we don't know everything that goes behind the scenes, but that is the current rumor out there that AP is probably on the hot seat and Mike Grable might be coming in to go ahead and replace him at the end of the season. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but I feel that if AP is able to get a few more wins together, he's in the clear. But that's my opinion. I feel that if AP does say that's a good thing and we have stability going on to the next season and he can build from that and really put a better team, a better product out on the field come 2025, right?
Want to cook?
So before I go into my next segment, Raiders versus Dolphins, if you guys are watching the podcast, make sure you guys like and subscribe that button down below. Turn on your notifications. I put out shorts every week. They're hilarious. Make sure you guys tune into that. Like those as well. If you're looking for a laugh, definitely recommend those. So for sure. But most importantly, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. We're currently at 32 subscribers. Let's get it up to 50. Let's get it up to 100, 500. I'm going to go ahead and put a giveaway together. So obviously, the more people that subscribe, the faster that we get to that giveaway. So for sure, you guys be staying tuned to that. But let's go ahead and get into it. Raiders versus Dolphins on Sunday. obviously, we had new OC Scott Turner and his dad uh, put the debut out for that game. The offense honestly didn't really look too much different. Scoring was slightly more consistent. Obviously, we did have the two scores in the first half, the two field goals, but we did score two touchdowns in the second half. Obviously, that wasn't enough to go ahead and get us the win. We had the touchdown by Brock Bowers, and let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick.
To the left, looks like, no, he just runs away from Ramsey now. You got the matchup you want.
Amir Abdul is in the backfield. They've got Bowers. Bowers is open for a first down, and he sheds one tackle into the end zone. Touchdown Raiders. 23 yards for the rookie.
Fuck yeah, that's fucking awesome. And then we had the second one, Abdullah, and Abdullah was pretty good too.
Keeping an eye on 89. Minshew underneath Abdullah, and he makes one man miss to the 5, toward the end zone. Touchdown Raiders. Amir Abdullah.
So we had those two touchdowns. Obviously, our time possession wasn't a whole lot. We only had 27 minutes. Dolphins had about 33. So, again, that's what, also hurt us as well, is that we didn't have the ball a whole lot. Dolphins just marched down the field. It made it really difficult for the defense to go ahead and really hold that team. But before going to the defense, the offense did try to go ahead and put a comeback together towards the fourth quarter, as we do usually. But Gardner Minshew decided to do what he does best, and that's turn the ball over. And that takes me to my next quick segment, Walk the Plank.
He walks the plank. The plank!
All right, so Walk the Plank. My nominee for Walking the Plank is a regular here now, Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew with the interception late in the fourth quarter, with the Raiders trying to mount a comeback, and throws a pick directly to the defender, and that is basically the game. Let's take a look.
Raiders can't afford these long drives. They've got to make something happen with 3:19 to play, down 2 scores. Minshew quickly intercepted. Jalen Ramsey to 2 knees. And that's good.
Before that, he had almost another interception. Fortunately, that defender did not catch the ball, and we're able to go ahead and be safe and continue on our drive. But Gardner Minshew, you walk the plank. So let's talk about the defense, right? So defense gives up 30 points. They cannot contain Tua. They did get to him a few times, but the pressure wasn't a whole lot. There was some misassignments that were done by the Raider defense. Obviously, that run-in touchdown, I believe, in the third quarter, that was a blown assignment. But yes, there was some confusion, miscommunication on the Raider defense that was apparent during the game. Biggest things, though, there were some injuries. Jack Jones looks like he injured his back. Still waiting for the injury report to come out on that. And Ja'Cory Bennett is also out. That looked more of a more severe type of injury. He may or may not have broken his collarbone. It looks like he was kind of holding his shoulder. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, once the injury report comes out, I can go ahead and post it on my socials, and you guys go ahead and check that out. But so far, those are the two biggest injuries that we have defensively, with an already basically shell of a defense from what we started at the beginning of the season. So if Ja'Cory actually broke his collarbone, he's out for the rest of the season. And Jack Jones may or may not come back. If he does, that'll probably be more towards the end of the season, probably the last maybe 3 games if we're lucky, possibly 2. So that just creates more holes in our defense, and we're have to, bring up more guys to come and replace Ja'Cory Bennett that's been having a great year. And then Jack Jones that hasn't had a great season, but has had his moments here and there, and is still a threat out there. So he's kind of a deterrent. So you always have to go ahead and kind of keep your eye on him. So not having those two guys is just going to create more of a problem defensively. And I don't see anybody stepping up in the corners for that. We'll see what happens with that, but it doesn't look too good. We already have Christian Wilkins, Marcus Epps, Malcolm Kuntz already out for the season. And if we have Jacorian Bennett and Jack Jones, that's going to be another knock on this Raider defense. So obviously we'll see what happens. But the thing here, the main issue, aside from the injuries, obviously with the gameplay, is giving up a lot of points and falling behind and trying to play catch up the last quarter and a half of play. And that always gets us. Yes, we're able to go ahead and put up a score on the second half with 2 touchdowns, a third and the fourth. But us giving up plus 30 points makes it difficult to go ahead and try to catch up with an offense that can't even put up 20. So, and with all these injuries, it's not looking any better. So that's the name of the game. Obviously, we have to start off fast, but stay consistent. Once we do start off fast, we can't just put up a touchdown and then again not have any type of offense for 2 quarters until the fourth when they're up by like 3 or 4 scores and we're trying to play catch up. So that's been kind of the name of the game for the Raiders this season. I don't know if that's going to improve in this next coming game, and we'll go into that in just a second. But if there is some type of turnaround, it does have to be obviously in the offensive side of the ball, which we all know and we've all been talking about the whole season. But it really does, because if we're not able to start off fast and stay consistent with the scoring, we're going to have a hard time trying to win games here and there and try to stay competitive. The biggest thing is that, like I said before on my reaction podcast on Sunday, is that we're trying to see some type of improvement offensively. And if we're not winning games, that's fine. But so long as we stay competitive and we see some type of progress to build off into the following season. And that's what we want. Will we see that? I don't know. That's still to be determined. Obviously, this is Scott Turner's 3rd week on the job. Going into the final segment, Raiders versus Broncos in Vegas this Sunday coming up. So let's go ahead and get into that. Raiders versus Broncos, a Broncos team that's actually doing fairly well this season. They're currently 6-5. Keys to victory here.
Smells like victory.
Obviously, we need to go ahead and apply pressure to Bo Nix. Try to disrupt his rhythm and give us a possibility to go ahead and get a few sacks on him, and gives our secondary time to make plays. We need to go ahead and hold the Broncos defensively under 24 points. We cannot give another 30 points up to be able to think that we're going to win the game. So keeping them under 24, under 20 is going to be key here for us to be able to go ahead and have a chance. So let's talk offensively, right? Offensively, we need to score 10 plus points in the first half. If we're stuck at 6 or 9, the job is not going to get done. We need to hit 10, 12, 14, 17, etc. in the first half. Like I said earlier, score consistently, especially in the second half. We've had before last Sunday, that was our biggest issue, trying to score in the second half consistently and to be able to put drives together to eventually score, but at that point being too little too late. So really establishing an offense second half coming out strong is going to be key here. Turnovers, that has been our biggest weakness aside from giving up 30 plus points a game, is having all those turnovers. Last game versus Miami, we only had one turnover, which was Gardner Minshew's interception. If we're able to go ahead and keep it the same, where we have one or less, we might have a possibility of pulling one out. But the biggest thing here is scoring 20 plus points for the fucking game. If we're able to score more than 20 points, we have a higher probability of winning, and we make it competitive, even if we don't win against the Broncos, because this is one of the games I want us to win. We have to score more than 20 fucking points. If we cannot score in the red zone, that's a big problem. We're not going to score 20 points. If we're not able to go ahead and convert on third downs, we're not going to win. So all these things have to go ahead and start syncing together. Being able to score in the second half, that's going to be another thing for us to be able to go ahead and pull off a victory versus the Broncos. I was there in Denver last month in October for that game that we thought we had on lock, and we end up shitting the bed with fucking Gardner Minshew. So obviously we don't want a repeat of that. If that does happen, like I've said before, they will pull Gardner Minshew and put in Desmond Ridder to go ahead and finish the game. That's guaranteed. We cannot get embarrassed in our own house with Gardner Minshew playing like a fucking JV quarterback. Not gonna happen. So keep a lookout for that. Desmond Ridder will come in once Gardner Minshew has at least 2 or more turnovers in the game, where it's just terrible decision making, terrible, protection of the ball. He's gonna come out. So that's my thing. I hope that the Raiders do pull it off. This is a division rival. We have pride at stake here, and especially me being here in Albuquerque, being so close to Denver, the shit talking gets even more real over here because we have Bronco fans all over the fucking place. So definitely, I cannot have that happen. We definitely need to go ahead and get our victory back here and even up the score, at least for the season, and be able to burst the bubble on the Broncos' run to a possible playoff appearance this season. This is my prediction, and I do a prediction every podcast.
Claims to have the ability to control thoughts, communicate with spirits, and even predict the future.
On the following game. So if the Raiders do pull this out, it's probably going to be a 24-20 type score, 27-24. That's us really putting the offense really jiving on Sunday. But realistically, a closer game will probably be 17-14, 14-13 type score, if we're able to pull it off. One thing, if the Broncos do, I can't even say it, if the Broncos even do pull off a victory, hopefully it's a close victory where it's a 20-18, 20-17 type score, maybe 20-14. I'll take that. But if the Broncos are able to put up 30 on us, that's going to be a heartbreaker. And I know the Raider Nation is going to be highly upset and very heartbroken if that were to happen. But hopefully we will have a good game on Sunday. Again, this is a rivalry game, guys. It's totally different from like a Dolphin game. There's more at stake here than just winning. It's for pride. It's for shit talking. These guys go out. These guys do not like the fucking Broncos as much as we fucking don't like them as fans. These guys fucking hate them. And you can see it on the field. I hope that Raiders come out and really put it on the Broncos. And it is a very physical game. And our offense does what it needs to do. Obviously, going to Brock Bowers, using Jacoby Myers. We don't have too many weapons, but we at least have those two guys to be able to go ahead and put things together for us. And now that we have Michael Mayer, that's another third weapon that we have. Obviously, we have one deep threat, but we're not really going deep a whole lot these days. I give it 50-50. But that's being realistic. Let's see what happens Sunday. But that is a show. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this podcast. Again, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button down below. Keep supporting the podcast. Let's keep growing it. Make sure you guys are turning on your alerts for all that content I'm posting up every week. Make sure you guys are tuning in for that. Also, too, check out my guest podcast that I do as well. I'm doing one about every week now. I'm jumping on Cheeto Linus' show, or I'm jumping on Raider Rebels, or I'm jumping on somebody else's show. So make sure you guys are also tuned for that. Also, if you guys are thinking about starting your own podcast, if you guys ever wondered how to even go about it, make sure you guys go ahead and check out Riverside.fm. Riverside.fm. That is one of the premier places to go and put out podcasts. I've been with Riverside for a few months now, and I like it. I'm able to put these type of podcasts out for you guys every week, and also do my live shows as well. I'm able to put out in 4K ultra high def podcasts, something that a lot of platforms are not able to do. Riverside, you are able to do that, but also that you're still able to do the live shows. You're still able to go ahead and customize and edit all in one, put out reels, put out shorts directly to your social media. Go ahead and go out on my link, try it out for free. You guys don't have to go ahead and pay for this, for the subscription right off the bat. Put out a podcast, put out a show, whatever, do some reels, test it out. And if you guys like it, then pay for the subscription. Trust me, you guys won't go wrong on it. It is very easy to go ahead and put out a podcast with Riverside.fm. So go on my link, check it out, Riverside.fm. All right, guys, but that is the show. Also, you guys hop on my socials. Instagram, JRaider_505. That's JRaider_505. Also on X, aka Twitter, and also Threads on Instagram, which is all the same shit. But I am on those platforms. Biggest thing here, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, keep supporting it. Like I said, once we get to about 500 subscribers, then we can go ahead and start doing giveaways and all that cool, awesome stuff. And then so much more, not just the giveaways, there'll be other things that come along with it as well. So make sure you guys are tuning in every week. And then obviously we have so much more stuff. We have the whole off season ahead of us, and that's going to be already fucking exciting. I am chomping at the bit. I'm literally going to start putting a fucking countdown timer for this fucking draft. It can't come any fucking sooner because I'm already over this fucking season. But even the season, we're like how many games we lose to see where we end up in the draft order. It's going to be an exciting off season, that's for sure. So make sure you guys keep tuning in for that. But thank you guys again for joining me on the podcast. And as always, remember, just Raiders, baby.